I have to say, you mentioned Rockford Files.
Yes, sir. You got a good story
One
there?
of my favorite things about that show,
Yes.
the first one I did, I had a scene to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my little dressing room, one of, 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah.
And I had just arrived, and there's a knock on the door, and I thought, geez, can they be ready that quickly?
Mm-hmm.
I opened the door, and there's Jim Garner, who says, "Hey, Hoss, I'm Jim. Just wanted to welcome you to the show. Hope you have fun." That was it. But that was the way that man was. I'm a day player. I'm doing a scene, and he went out of his way to welcome me to his show. Months later, my parents had come out here for a visit, and I arranged for them to have lunch with me at the commissary at Universal, which was a big to-do for them.
Sure.
And I saw that Rockford Files was shooting right across the street from that. And I went over there just to see if Jim was there, and he was. And I knocked on his trailer, and his assistant came and answered the door, said hi to me and everything. And I said, I just wanted to see if Jim was going to have a moment to say hello to my parents. Well, there was an executive in there with Jim who said something to the effect of, "We don't have time for that." To which Jim responded, "Well, we're going to have to make some time, aren't we?" Came out and spent like the next hour with my parents.
Fantastic.
And just kept that executive in there cooling his heels, learning some manners. And I will never forget that as long as I live. He was the finest gentleman I think I've run across in this business. Again, rest his soul, but he was such an outstanding man.
James Garner stood out in Hollywood not just for his talent, but for what he represented, a man of quiet dignity and integrity in a world often seen as cutthroat and superficial. Over a career that spanned 6 decades, Garner became synonymous with characters who embodied honor and principle, even when surrounded by dishonesty and chaos. But the image he crafted so skillfully through roles like Brett Maverick and Jim Rockford was more than just good acting. It was rooted in a life shaped by pain, resilience, and an unyielding sense of justice. Born James Scott Bumgarner in 1928 in Norman, Oklahoma, Garner's early life was anything but idyllic. His mother passed away when he was just 5 years old, leaving him and his brothers in the care of a father who eventually abandoned them for California. Garner's childhood became a whirlwind of instability, moving between relatives and enduring physical abuse at the hands of a stepmother he despised. These experiences left deep scars, including an acute inferiority complex that lingered even in the heights of his success. Ironically, the fear of public humiliation and being laughed at would later propel him into a profession where such risks were ever present. As a teenager, Garner channeled his pent-up frustration into athletics, excelling in football and track. But school couldn't hold him for long. At 16, he dropped out to join the Merchant Marine, only to discover he suffered from severe seasickness. After a stint of odd jobs in Los Angeles, he found a more structured environment in the military during the Korean War, where he became Oklahoma's first draftee. Garner served 14 months as an infantryman, earning 2 Purple Hearts for combat injuries. The discipline and resilience forged in battle became a foundation for his future career. Returning to civilian life proved challenging. By his mid-20s, Garner was drifting through low-paying jobs without a clear direction. Fate intervened when he noticed a familiar name on a producer's office plaque. Paul Gregory, an old acquaintance from a gas station job, gave Garner his first break, casting him in the Kane Mutiny Court-Martial. Sharing the stage with acting legend Henry Fonda, Garner began to realize his own potential. Fonda became both a mentor and a lifelong friend, introducing Garner to the craft of acting as something both technical and deeply personal. Garner's career in Hollywood was far from planned. Initially setting himself a 5-year limit to succeed, he leaned on his natural charm and striking good looks, enhanced by his part Cherokee heritage. Small television roles came quickly, and by the mid-1950s, he'd landed a Warner Brothers contract. His breakout role arrived in Maverick, a Western series that turned the archetype of the gunslinging hero on its head. As Brett Maverick, Garner portrayed a sly gambler who preferred wit over violence, a character that echoed his own easygoing yet principled personality. While Maverick made him a household name, it also revealed his tenacity off-screen. Unhappy with being underpaid despite the show's massive success, Garner took the bold step of suing Warner Brothers to escape his contract. It was a career gamble, but it paid off, leading to significant roles in major films like The Great Escape in 1963 and Grand Prix in 1966. Garner often played characters who combined rugged masculinity with a disarming vulnerability, a combination that endeared him to audiences and set him apart from his peers. The early 1970s saw Garner return to television with The Rockford Files, a role that would define him for a new generation. As Jim Rockford, a private investigator living in a trailer, Garner brought humor, heart, and an everyman relatability to a genre often populated by hyper-masculine stereotypes. The show's 6-year run cemented his legacy, but came at a cost. Garner's dedication to his craft led to physical exhaustion and strained his marriage to the brink of collapse. Still, his portrayal earned him an Emmy and remains a touchstone in TV history. Garner's off-screen persona was as compelling as his characters. Known for his fiery temper when provoked, he famously confronted Hollywood producer Glenn Larson over allegations of plagiarism. Yet this same passion underpinned his deep sense of fairness. Whether it was suing studios for owed wages or advocating for better working conditions, Garner consistently stood up for himself and others. His moral compass wasn't just an act, it was a way of life. In the latter part of his career, Garner continued to deliver memorable performances. He proved his comedic chops in Victor Victoria in 1982 and revisited his Western roots alongside Mel Gibson in the film adaptation of Maverick in 1994. Even as he aged, Garner brought depth to roles in films like The Notebook in 2004, where he played a devoted husband navigating his wife's battle with Alzheimer's, a part he described as one of his most emotionally demanding. What made James Garner truly special was his ability to make acting look effortless. He once remarked, "When people see me in something and say, 'That's just you, that's not acting,' it's the best compliment I can get." Critics often compared him to Cary Grant for his natural charisma, but Garner's down-to-earth approach set him apart. While he earned critical acclaim, including an Oscar nomination for Murphy's Romance, 1985, he never let accolades define him. For Garner, longevity and consistency mattered more than fleeting stardom. In 2005, the Screen Actors Guild honored Garner with a Lifetime Achievement Award, a fitting recognition for a man whose work resonated across generations. Yet perhaps the greatest testament to his legacy is the enduring appeal of his characters. Men who stood tall in a world that often seemed to reward the dishonorable. Whether as a gambler, a private eye, or a devoted husband, James Garner's performances reflected a rare authenticity that continues to inspire. In a world hungry for integrity, James Garner didn't just play the honorable man, he lived it. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite James Garner role? Was it his smooth-talking Maverick, the everyman Jim Rockford, or perhaps one of his heartfelt performances on the big screen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to know what made this legendary actor unforgettable for you.